Waking up on Saturday morning, America discovered that it had won the war without losing a single soldier and had captured the president of the country, the enemy at 2 o'clock in the morning, Caracas time from Friday to Saturday. I mean the military airfields, the president's palace, the mausoleum to the south of Chavez, the parliament, the garrison of Maduro's guards, which was located right in the capital, was bombed by ships and helicopters of the United States of America. At the same time, the tracked President Maduro and his wife were taken out of bed. The assault on their home shelter was so quiet and lightning fast that the couple didn't even have time to wake up, or rather, to wake up. They woke up but were taken by helicopter before getting out of bed. He was immediately taken to a military ship in the Caribbean Sea. So, on Saturday morning, United States President Donald Trump announced that after the intense bombing of Minnesota, a CIA special unit, we already know it's the Delta Unit. Having been in Caracas for a long time, they captured President Maduro and took him and his wife out of the country toward Guantanamo. That is, to Cuba, where there is a United States military base. Maduro was transferred to a military ship. There's a base in Cuba, and there's a military base in Cuba. Labor social. Trump also announced that he is taking operational control of Venezuela. The most interesting part will be at the end, of course, ladies and gentlemen, because it's pretty intense there. We can't leave a power vacuum. I'm trying to translate what Trump said, and that's why someone will definitely, so to speak, step into the vacuum. This power will be seized, and the new authority might not be very friendly toward the United States of America. Trump was hinting, of course, at Russia, which sent a plane with Wagner fighters, and at Cuba, which provided security for Maduro and at the same time, of course, controlled his actions. Basically, whoever is watching over him is the one controlling him, or as they say, whoever dances with him is the one who dines with him, or maybe the other way around. So Maduro went from one soft prison to another, but a much tougher one. I would say, I strongly suspect that, like Noriega from Panama, he'll stay there for a long time. And I also want to add that he's just as much of an idiot as Vladimir Alexandrovich Zelensky. It's just that the United States CIA works better than Russia's Federal Security Service and main intelligence directorate. Well, it seems they work better. The Venezuelan government immediately reported that the United States attacked targets in 3 provinces, while the neighboring president of Colombia said it was much broader than just 3. Here's what we know. In Caracas at 2 a.m. their time, there were 7 explosions. The main strike hit a military base near the capital, and then the strikes targeted an Air Force base. That means Gargusimetu, if I'm not mistaken, which means military airfields, La Carlota base, the helicopter base, the private airport that Maduro used, so V. Karlova and Lagaria, that's an airport. Sorry, that's a port. Lagaria is a port. And the airport is Al-Hatilo Hatio. They probably pronounce it, but it's interesting that the presidential palace also means Miraflores and Chavez's mausoleum. Well, the parliament also came under attack. Before that, more than 100 people on boats who were supposedly heading in our direction and supposedly with drugs. As the United States Navy tells us, they came under attack and were destroyed, if I remember correctly, 30, 31, or 32 boats. So the United States Navy, or whatever it's called, the United States Navy, claims that they were carrying drugs, supposedly heading toward us. Then 2 oil tanks were requisitioned, and the oil was taken by the United States of America. And before heading to the Caracas pier where the drugs were being loaded, they were blown up. That's what we were told. I would say that, as they say, I wasn't there myself and didn't check it personally. I should add to this that Venezuela has entered into an alliance with Iran, China, Russia, Cuba, and North Korea. That is, well, it's basically a list of the enemies of the United States of America, or rivals. Opponents of the United States of America at various levels. Nevertheless, by doing this, it has put itself in the position of being the closest adversary to the United States borders. Unlike Ukraine, which, so to speak, hasn't done anything bad to Russia, Venezuela was sending drugs to us. About 1 million Venezuelan citizens fled to the United States because of Maduro's actions, bringing with them, by the way, banditry, drug trafficking, underage prostitution, and a lot of criminals and crimes. In total, about 7 million people have left Venezuela. But Venezuela is also guilty of something else. It has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. Just by the numbers, Venezuela has discovered and confirmed reserves of 303 billion barrels of oil. For comparison, Saudi Arabia has 267, which was considered the largest. Russia has 80 and the United States has 55. 2 billion is also a huge amount. And as they say, it will last for many years. But nevertheless, look at this. So to speak, I mean, practically, how much is that? 55 and 303. The vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, said that the country's armed forces are ready to repel any strike, any attacks, possible occupiers, and are ready for an invasion by occupiers. I'm not sure. Occupiers might not say it that way. Gustavo Petro, president of Colombia, is also left-wing and similar. So, the drug dealer said that he is outraged. He is simply outraged. De Silva from Brazil reacted as if he'd been whipped. And from Chile came a hooray, finally, and then all sorts of bad words about Maduro and what was done to him. Javier Milei, our friend from Argentina, wrote, "It's about time." The Ecuadorian Daniel Noboa went even further, writing on his X account, "All drug lords should be driven out of Latin America." Russia, Iran, and China stated that Trump's actions are contrary to the United Nations principles of non-interference. Of course, it's funny when Russia's screwing around in Ukraine, Iran, arming its proxies to attack Israel. Everyone else in America talk about this. They condemn someone, right? Or China, which has taken over Tibet and is targeting Taiwan, is barking at someone. But these are the rules of this idiotic game. To do one thing and say the exact opposite. It's basically written in for any politician. So you do one thing, say another, and have something completely different in mind. Maybe something that has nothing to do with the matter at all. So, does that mean it's time to abolish the United Nations altogether? From my point of view, their rules only apply when small countries are involved, and even then, not always. Maduro, the one who stole his country's elections? What's his name again? And it's not our business, yes, but someone who bankrupted the population of his country, one of the richest countries in Latin America, is removed from power. And now the United States is going to bring back the legally recognized president. That's Emmanuel Gonzalez. No, it's Edmundo Gonzalez. Yes, Edmundo Gonzalez, Edmundo. He already invited Machado there a month ago. The girl who received the Nobel Prize for nothing. Well, anyway, for what? For peace in the whole world, that's why she got the Nobel Prize. Well, she was smart enough to say that she dedicates it to Trump. So, not all of the authorities in Venezuela are happy, naturally. I would even put it that way. Most likely, all the authorities in Venezuela are not very happy about what happened, because they are Maduro's accomplices. Maybe not in drugs, but in something else. But the accomplices committed a bunch of crimes, so to speak. They were feasting while 3/4 of the people were starving and swelling from hunger. And for them, giving up power means all sorts of trials, punishments, troubles, and loss of property. I hope that the next part of the operation has been thought through. So whether it was the CIA or the State Department who did it, I don't know, but I hope it's planned as well as the attack was. The capture of the president and his wife is a huge blow for Russia, Iran, and China. And of course, they will try in some cunning way to prevent a regime change. Maybe try something through the United Nations. Maybe instead of America, some kind of international forces could take over the external management of Venezuela. Yes, a lot of money will also pour into the United States Congress to try to stop Trump from the inside. But I think Trump has an answer for all of this. While the courts and disputes are ongoing, he will be able to put opposition leaders, so to speak, in the presidential residence. Who? Did I just mention them? And I'm sure that part of the army leadership and numerous exiles are ready to take power from the cartels and return the country to the anti-Chinese, anti-liberal, and anti-globalist camp. In general, despite the fact that Operation Venezuela is directly opposed to the ideas expressed by Trump about interacting with the outside world, I'm glad it happened. Maduro, said Trump. He was in a house that was built like a fortress. Steel doors, a special room made entirely of steel. And he tried to get into that shelter to hide, but everything happened so quickly that, as they say, he didn't even have time to get out of bed. Just in case, the team brought equipment with them to break open this steel safe where Maduro and his wife were supposed to hide until help arrived. When asked if anyone was killed, Trump replied, "No one at all. That is, not on either side." I was watching, he said, throughout the entire operation, from the cameras, the videos, which, well, body cams, as I understand, our military were carrying with them. We had a second strike group ready, he said, but it wasn't needed. Thank God the guys did everything clearly, quickly, and professionally, so no one on the other side even had time to react. I want to say that knowing that Maduro was guarded by Cubans, it's strange to hear that either they weren't there at all at that place, which is odd, terrible, or they decided not to dive for a ministerial bandit and just calmly laid down their weapons and lay down on the floor inside Maduro's office. That means the CIA had its own people, and that's why the United States knew where, when, and where to send, so to speak, where he was practically at any moment of the day or night. By the way, the vice president of Venezuela, this very Delcy Rodriguez, was in Moscow at the moment the assault began, so to speak. And so to speak, in my opinion, she was issuing all sorts of statements and orders from Moscow, and then she rushed to Kiev, Caracas. I think we'll talk about this now. But I think she's already there because what she's saying now sounds like she's already taken the reins into her own hands, so to speak. So here you go, Vovka Barkovka. And the New Year started off well. And who knows what else is yet to come. Oil from Venezuela will no longer go to Iran and China, and representatives of Hamas and Hezbollah will flee from Caracas. The oil has probably already fled, yes. If Washington manages to quickly establish at least minimal order and partially restore oil exports, then Venezuela will be able to form a new moderate government led by the opposition, but with the participation of the military and other elites of the country. But in fact, control over security, the oil sector, and key financial flows will be in the hands of the Washington administration. The Washington administration has not been active for quite a few years. Heavy Venezuelan oil is coming under United States control and allows for the further pushing out of Russia from the global energy market. Of course, there is still much to be done before we can say the operation was a success. But judging by the first steps, the United States has once again proven its professionalism and its ability to plan and carry out complex operations. The operation, of course, was not easy, so let's hope that the next steps will also be carried out clearly, professionally, and with minimal human cost. And now, considering that we are obviously together with Mossad, fueling the fire of an anti-Islamist revolution in Iran, and that the police are switching sides, meaning one city after another is joining the rebels, it seems that Trump has a chance to strike another blow and topple a zealous enemy of the United States who forced his subjects to shout 5 times a day. Millions of people. Death to America, death to Israel, and so on. Ayatollah, the Iranian jihadists are the kind of people we don't want leading this or any other country. The main thing there is to neutralize the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. All right, let's get back to Venezuela. As I promised, I have good news for you. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez. So, in the morning, how much time has passed for us already? Yes, she was sworn in as president Saturday morning. There's nothing special about it. She just took the oath. But after they published it, the United States published a photo of the captured Maduro. She is de facto since the president is in someone else's hands and not under our protection. It means he needs to be urgently replaced. They replaced her with Rodriguez, and she immediately informed Marco Rubio that Venezuela was ready to surrender. The war between Venezuela and the United States ended before it even began. Now President Rodriguez, informed Rubio that she was ready for any agreements that would prevent bloodshed and the destruction of her country. I think she will go down in history as a wise ruler, and it looks like she will secure herself a place in the cabinet of the National Unity Government. And Trump, I did promise something interesting, right? He told the audience at the press conference that Cuba is in crisis, and without Venezuela's help, it could fall apart. Is Trump planning to help Cuba break free from the clutches of communo-fascism? Here, take a look at what he said.
Cuba is an interesting case and not in a good situation now. This system turned out to be not very successful for Cuba. People there have suffered for many years. And I think that Cuba will become a topic for discussion because Cuba is now a country in decline, a country that is really falling into decline.
The next thing we will talk about, he didn't say who we will talk to, but rather who we will talk about. It's the Cubans, meaning not with them, but about them. So we will be making decisions. We will either capture it too or leave it alone for a while, or maybe definitely capture it. But we will decide exactly how we will capture it.
And we want to help people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help people in Cuba, but we also want to help those who were expelled from Cuba and who live in this country. Marco, would you like to comment on this?
Well, I just made a statement a few minutes ago about the fact that when the president speaks, he should be taken seriously. It's enough to say that Cuba is a disaster. It is run by incompetent, decrepit men, and in some cases not decrepit, but still incompetent. The economy has completely collapsed. By the way, they were all Kritia,
all the security
that protected Maduro, and their spy agency was known to be full of Cubans.
Marco also has scores to settle with Cuba. Just like us with the socialist paradise, with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics on Earth, and the wonderful, gentle, charming, caring employees of the KGB, People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs Cheka, and what is it now, the Federal Security Service.
Nicolas Maduro had his own chance, just like Iran had its chance until they missed it. And while he still had his chance, he did a lot of things and paid the price.
Oh, so Iran too. Or maybe he's talking about what happened, or maybe about both what happened and what will happen, or maybe about what's happening right now.
President Trump is absolutely serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence into our country, absolutely serious about stopping the influx of drugs and poisons to our people, absolutely serious about taking back the oil that was stolen from us.
He's a fugitive from American justice with a $50 million reward. A pause, which I understand we're saving. That's absolutely right. We need to make sure...
And no one.
To appropriate it.
No one but us deserves it.
I want to clarify something. Nicolas Maduro had many opportunities to avoid this. He was offered very, very generous deals, but instead he chose to act like a savage, preferring to play games. And the result, that's what we saw tonight. The other message here is this. You have a person, like many people around the world, who loves to play games. Imagine someone inviting Iran to their country, planning to seize American oil companies. He will flood our country with members of criminal gangs, take Americans hostage, try to hold them as hostages and exchange them, just like he already managed to do with the Biden administration. He's been playing his own games thinking he'll avoid consequences.
I hope people now see that the 47th President of the United States is not a player. When he says he'll do something or solve a problem, he's serious and takes action. To be continued.
I've been observing this process for 14 or 15 years. People often make promises saying they'll do things when they arrive, but he's a president who actually takes action. I don't understand how they still haven't figured this out.
And this is the final chord. Haven't you figured it out yet, Sammerdolls or Sammergoats, who you're dealing with? Trump is not a blabbermouth like Obama, Bush, Clinton, or Carter. When he promises action, it doesn't always happen the way you thought it would, but it does happen. And when Trump says, I will temporarily govern Venezuela then, this is backed up by explanations from the current female president of Venezuela about how big the enema will be and exactly where it will be inserted. What if she doesn't strictly follow the developed scenario and, after taking over the administration of Venezuela together with the occupiers, leads it to a legitimate pro-Western government? The return of 7 million refugees? Well, I think that's almost as many as in Ukraine. The restoration of property to American oil companies, the termination of agreements with China, Iran, and Russia, and also note the replacement of the command of the Army, Navy, security agencies, and other armed forces of the country. Gentlemen, congratulations on the good news. Are there any points of contention? Yes, there are some points of contention, but we'll talk about them later. And now I'll tell you this. I'm very glad. Well then, write to me about Novosibirsk. Are you glad? Or what? Goodbye.